Now we'll be talking about something completely different from the first one and different from the next matter, which is going to be football. I can't stop talking about football, can I? We're joined now by Sarah Beslon-Yanti, who is the head of UNICEF Lagos Field Office, and we'll be talking about something that's got to do with the rights of the child and, of course, the role of UNICEF in that. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Well, today, I beg your pardon. Yeah, is it today or this month, actually?
Well, yeah.
It's this month.
Yeah,
it marks the,
specifically.
Okay, 25 years of this Convention on the Rights of the Child. And we understand that it's from this Convention on the Rights of the Child that Nigeria's Child Rights Act was derived. And so we're looking at this whole convention, and since we're signatory to this as well, in terms of how we're fed, and are the children better than they were before this convention was signed? These are some of the issues we're looking at. So what's the key thing now, focusing on this UNICEF event? I think,
well, first and foremost, actually, although UNICEF is hailing the flag in relation to reminding people of their responsibilities vis-a-vis the child and fulfilling the rights of children, it's actually governments of the world. The Convention of the Rights of the Child was designed in 1989. It was ratified by Nigeria in 1991. And Nigeria has done a lot in terms of domesticating the Convention of the Rights of the Child, the CRC. Nigeria has developed the Child Rights Law and then subsequently domesticated at the state level with the Child Rights Acts in various states. And states have now translated that into various tools. Looking at the different articles, the 54 articles of the convention that span all the way from the rights of the child to health, to education, to be protected, to be safe from abuse and exploitation, to be safe from trafficking and child labor, the right to play. All of these rights, the different states have now taken action in terms of their various development agendas, their different development plans, now articulate concrete actions around ensuring that children have their rights fulfilled.
Well, usually when we think of children and rights, what usually comes to mind is a lot of people think of children hawking on the streets, not being in school when they should be in school. But we still see some of these things, prevalent day to day, and some people say it's a part of our culture. Do you think that this is ever going to change? How have you been able to, educate people to know that, there is a place for culture, but there's also a place for, ensuring that the rights of children are maintained? Is there a clash somewhere?
There is a clash, and I think that clash is a clear misunderstanding. People always say the five fingers aren't equal. You always have to have people who will sell and people who will buy. That being said, the level of inequities that exist, they're not. I think they're not fair. I think that it's not. There's no excuse for the inequities that we have in society. The children who are at the bottom tier of the pyramid in terms of the wealth quintiles, the children in the lowest wealth quintile do not have the same level of access to education, to health care, as children in the richest wealth quintile, which means that then government needs to ensure that the policies and the programs are pro-poor to make sure that they're equity-based and equity-focused so that the children at the bottom of the pyramid have access to the fulfillment of their rights. And oftentimes the duty bearers, and the primary duty bearers are the parents. And at the end of the day, the parents have a responsibility to make sure that they fulfill the rights of their children. And if the parents are not knowledgeable on their on the rights of the child and their responsibilities as duty bearers to their children, they won't fulfill the children's rights. So a lot of it is linked to the lack of knowledge in the communities around the role of the parents in the lives of the children, because oftentimes you'll find them saying, well, there's no school near my house, so my child can't go to school. There's an opportunity cost. The time it will take for my child to walk to school, I could have that child earning an income for the household. Not understanding the long-term implications, in that in the short term you think it's better for a household to generate additional income, but in the long term, you're further exacerbating the problem, generational poverty from generation to generation. So a lot of it's about educating the families, the parents, and making sure that they understand the implications of not forging forward to fulfill the rights of their children.
But looking at the situation in Nigeria, Lagos, in particular, you're based in Lagos, the UNICEF office in Lagos. How would you rate the adherence to allowing the children to enjoy their rights?
That's a very broad-based question, I think. And what I can say is that I know a lot of policies and actually implementable plans and action plans and concrete actions are being taken in Lagos around fulfilling the rights of children. For example, we're happy to note that Lagos has trailblazed when it comes to the issue of maternal and child health, maternal, newborn, and child health. They have tried to put in place these maternal child centers, these MCCs around the state, where you have all of the services in one. It's a one-stop shop. So the mother can have her postnatal care, her antenatal care, the children can get their immunization, making sure that you reduce the opportunity cost for families, because oftentimes families will tell you, I go to the health facility, I won't come back anymore because I had to wait too long, and the time I wasted, I could have been doing something different. So in relation to health, Lagos has done a lot in trying to ensure that you have, especially for the poorest of the poor in the slum areas, that you have better access to health care. In relation to education, you know, the Southwest has better education data compared to the rest of Nigeria. So for the Southwest Nigeria, you have very good gender parity. You know, you have boys and girls enrolled in school. The issue now is school retention. Children enter school, but not all of the children stay in school, fare well, and then graduate. So how do you improve the quality of education, get children enrolled earlier into early childhood education to make sure that they fare better in school? But then you see in the same Lagos, you have a lot of street children. You have street children all over the state. But you also realize that a lot of them come from outside of Lagos as well. A lot of them come from different states and come into Lagos. But we should be asking ourselves the question, why do we have street children in the first place? What's wrong? And when you dig deeper, when you look at the underlying causes, you find a lot of it is linked to abuse. Children not being protected in their homes, they're being abused, they're running away from a lot of different situations in their homes. Some of them actually run away because they want to go to school. We found that as well, working with some of the NGO partners we work with. We've gotten to see that there's a wide range of reasons why children are on the streets. And when you understand that, when you understand the underlying causes, you realize that then we need to do more in terms of protecting the rights of children, protecting them. So we have now child protection networks. And Lagos has a child protection network where government, civil society, and the communities come together to look at how you can prevent abuse in the home and how you can actually refer cases out when you identify cases of abuse in the home or in the schools or what have you.
You know, when we look through and then we see that this landmark legal framework has made a lot of difference in children across the world, then breaking it down to Nigeria, is it owing to this legal framework or access to infrastructure and parents or children just saying, or parents saying, well, I think my children should just go to school, persuasion, rather than this legal framework?
I think that's a very good question. And at the end of the day, all of us have a role to play in terms of fulfilling the rights of children. It starts all the way from budgetary allocations, making sure the budgets are child-friendly, making sure resources are allocated to issues that address children's needs, making sure that the budgets that are allocated are released, they're actually spent for the purposes that they were intended for. So making sure we have transparent budget processes that are child-friendly, making sure that then what the resources are being allocated to are actually proven to yield results for children, because oftentimes you spend money on different activities that don't necessarily yield results. So how do we make sure that the plans in the various states are then plans that are aligned with actions that are proven internationally to generate the kind of results that we want to see for children? And I can say one thing very clearly. I know a lot of focus right now is about competing priorities in terms of budget allocations. And a lot of focus is on security. But I think a very strong message that needs to be sent during this period while we're looking at the rights of the children is the fact that if we don't allocate resources to make sure we reduce the children on the streets and reduce the children who don't have an education, we'll actually be increasing insecurity. Because at the end of the day, these children will grow up and they are the ones more susceptible to being enlisted in various acts of criminality, terror, and so forth. So not addressing the rights of children is literally reducing your security and your stability. So it behooves any state government and the federal government of Nigeria to ensure that the rights of children are fulfilled, so we get more children educated and empowered and less children on the streets. And open to being used by groups of crime.
The idea of children, I mean, a lot of people will say that it would seem that it boils down to the family. How does this incorporate the family? Because one will wonder, why would anyone bring children into the world if they do not have the thinking or the thought to take care of them? How do we divorce this from the family?
In fact, Governor Fashola and I had this discussion at one point, and I hope you won't get upset with me for quoting him on this, but it was a very good discussion we had around the perceptions of the family, where there was a time when children died from preventable diseases, and so parents thought that they had to have so many children, because if you had 10 and 4 died, or 5 died, at least you still had enough. But children aren't dying from preventable diseases anymore because we have the immunizations, and more children are living now. And so times have changed.
Are people still having 10 and 8?
Some people still are. Some people still are. And that's why you have those partners like UNFPA and others who do family planning. We don't. Our mandate doesn't include family planning, but UNFPA does family planning. But that's linked to that as well. Families being aware of the fact that children live, and these children you're giving birth to, they're going to live, and you have a responsibility to take care of each and every one of them. And taking care of them means X, Y, and Z. It means health, it means education, it means, and I think your point then there is, where do we engage with the communities? How do we ensure that not only we're working at the level of the duty bearers to fulfill the rights of the children, but also at the level of the communities for the children to understand their rights, number one, and number two, for the parents to know their responsibility as duty bearers to their children. And I think this is where we're going further in terms of partnerships, expanding our partnerships to make sure that these aspects are also catered to.